Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. As-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show, wherein we are going to be discussing the things which are important to you. Of course, I'm your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and let's bring this a bit closer. And we're going to get started here. I am, of course, broadcasting live from Syria, and we're happy to have everybody here, who is here and who will be joining us. Walhamdulillah. Okay, everybody. Let me just check to see that this is doing what we needed to do. Okay. And we do. Okay. First of all, we're going to talk about something briefly. There was a video that was going around, or that is going around right now, wherein it shows the Syrian president Ahmed Shara and his foreign secretary or foreign minister playing basketball with CENTCOM leader. I think his name is Cooper, Brad Cooper, I believe. I know his last name is Cooper, but I want to make sure that it's Brad. At any rate, they were playing a game of basketball amongst themselves, having a good time and such like that. Now, I think that I'm going to tell you why I think that this is problematic. Not everybody is probably going to agree with me, but here's some of the problems. See, Brad Cooper is also an admiral and was a part of the U.S. Navy, and he participated in the conflicts in Afghanistan and in Iraq. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just don't think that these are the kinds of people in which we should be having a game of basketball with. No, we're not okay. We're not good. Now, we may have to sit down and discuss details, issues, concerns, and things of this nature, but that we're going to be playing basketball and patting each other on the back. There are countless Muslims who are dead because of this man. And I just don't think that that is appropriate to be doing things of that nature. I don't. And I think that that's, when it comes to al-wala wal-bara, to showing allegiance to the Muslims and disavowal to the non-Muslims, that doesn't mean that you can't have non-Muslims who are your neighbors and, hey, how you doing? How are things going? Sit down, have a cup of tea, deal with each other in a kind and good and just way. It doesn't mean that. That's not what I'm talking about. But when we're saying that there are Muslims who have, that when you have non-Muslims who have blood on their hands, serving in the U.S. military, the same U.S. military, the same U.S. government that is bankrolling, funding, and supporting the genocide that's taking place in Palestine now. I don't know, guys. Once again, this is probably neither here nor there. I'm not necessarily saying that anybody has to agree with me or anything like that, but I just don't see that's a good thing. I don't see it like that, and Allah knows best. You guys can send in your questions, your comments. If you agree with me, then that's okay. That's a good thing. If you don't agree, then that's fine too. Of course, as you probably know by now, I was not in complete agreement either, and I'm stating my opinions here, with the United States opening up the Mezza Air Force Base, or they're using that base to bring their helicopters and such like that. Now, the title of this program is Israel's influence growing here in Syria? If America's influence is growing, by default, that means that Israel's influence is growing. You can't get around it. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Israel's influence inside of Syria absolutely positively is growing, because the U.S. military, the U.S. government, the CIA, they all share intelligence with Tel Aviv. Is anybody confused with that? Is anybody not clear on that? Absolutely, that's what they do. And they've been doing it for years, so there's nothing new or strange about that. But it seems that our politics are not reflecting that. And once again, I do not believe that having a U.S. military base to act as a buffer between Syria and Tel Aviv is necessary, because you need a buffer when you have two belligerents. There aren't two belligerents. There's only one. The Ahmed Shara administration has not been returning fire from the countless airstrikes and rockets. Even certain ministries inside the capital of Damascus have been bombed by the Israelis. And there hasn't been any retaliation as of yet. So all they actually have to do is just to contact their ally, whom they are bankrolling, whom they're funding, whom they are arming, whom they are politically covering, and tell them to cut it out. You don't need to have a base in southern Damascus in order to do that, because if we want to talk about a base, that Meza Air Base is not that big. Now, Odeid Air Base in Qatar is the biggest in the region and has thousands of U.S. troops. Did that stop the Israelis from bombing Qatar? It did not. So having the U.S. base there, that doesn't really change the dynamic. It really doesn't. And nobody can really make a credible case, in my opinion, that it's needed when the bigger base was there, Odeid, in Qatar, and that still didn't do any good. And Washington says they didn't know about it. Somehow. And Allah knows best. All right. We've got Salam Akhi Bilal. We got Abba here. Love you for the sake of Allah, when I love you for the sake of the one whom you love me for. What's your thoughts about Memdani becoming mayor of New York City? I know a lot of his views are inconsistent with Islam. I believe without Gaza, he would be mayor. I think he would have been mayor too. Now, let me try to give this to you as clearly as I possibly can. Okay. In terms of Zahran Memdani, if I would support him because he's Muslim and because he's going to advance Muslim values, I would say don't support him. And I would tell you that I don't like him. But if I support him because he seems to have a moral compass, he seems to feel something for the less fortunate, I would say that you should support him based upon that. In addition to that, I mean, look, you had Andrew Cuomo, he got caught with some girls or something like that. Or, no, he wasn't caught with some girls. Let me kind of, not make that so general. He was accused of sexual harassment and such like that and everything. But this guy, he goes back a long way. And we knew him and his father from my days when I was in New York, at any rate. The point of the matter here is that Zahran Mamdani, I believe, is a step up for New York. I think he's sincere. I think that it's going to be a tough road ahead. Why? Because he went against the Jewish lobby, the Israeli lobby. Now I'm going to call it the Israeli lobby, not the Jewish lobby. The Israeli lobby. And he did something extremely dangerous. He showed politicians around the country that you can have a moral compass, know that Gaza is wrong, get up there and say that and still get elected. I'm trying to say, like AIPAC and the Israeli lobby wanted was for him to crash and burn and abysmally fail so that nobody would try to go against the Israeli lobby again. Now, next year, there are elections for the Senate and also for the Congress. That's going to be huge because Mamdani's victory signals to others that no, you don't have to automatically support Israel. If you support them because you think that they're doing the right thing, then that's one thing. But most of those politicians are not supporting Israel because they genuinely believe that they have the moral high ground. You would have to be crazy to think that slaughtering all of those people and starving them was the right thing to do and the necessary thing to do. No, I don't believe that. And so, in summary, Zahran Mamdani, he seems to think that the LGBTQ thing is okay, fine, fine. Islam doesn't say it's okay, it's not, fine, fine. And so I think that he needs dawah and education, Islamic education on some fronts and all. But as a person, I like him very much. And I don't honestly see that he's going to try to put forward some Sharia law or something like that in New York City. I don't think that that's what he sees as realistic. I don't even know if that's something that he would want to do, even if it was. So, but supporting the poor, supporting the weakened people in Gaza. I mean, when you look at Mamdani and you look at the things that he supports, what's not to like? All right, let's look here. All right, we've got Ahmed, and he says, Salaam alaikum, Bilal. Wasn't ISIS right about everything they said about Jolani from the very beginning? Well, I got to try to access the ISIS files that are here and some of the things that they said, because I don't remember everything that they said. I do remember that they felt that you couldn't trust Jolani. And look, everybody's got to just look at what's been happening. Jolani rode to power on an Islamic vehicle, that he was going to bring Islam and Sharia to the people. That hasn't happened. I don't think by anybody's account they would say, yes, we have Sharia, it's here. What are you talking about? I don't see that people are actually believe that. Whether you agree with his policies or you don't agree with his policies, whether you like him or whether you don't like him, okay, you can make a case for all of that. But I don't think that you can make a case and say that Syria is a Sharia compliant state. Now, people are going to come forward and they're going to say, okay, well, look, we're weak, we're downtrodden, we can't interact our own policies, ABC, and 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to make this crystal clear to everybody. You can say what you want, but by allying with the United States and Washington, you are, in my opinion, committing political suicide. Why am I saying that? Because I know America. I know Americans. I know American foreign policy. And I was extremely concerned when Donald Trump came forward and he was at a press conference and they were discussing the lifting of sanctions, which were lifted off by Ahmed Shara and Asad Shaybani, formerly known as Abu Aisha. They were, no, I'm sorry, they weren't on Asad Shaybani. It was lifted off of Anis Khattab, who is his interior minister. So the sanctions were lifted off of them. And Donald Trump said that it was a bunch of different countries that requested that, including Turkey and Israel. Now, when Israel is saying, yeah, we want sanctions to be lifted, I don't know if we can say that that's a good thing. That doesn't sound good to me. That's like Firaun saying, we want to lift sanctions off of so-and-so. Then he's not going to lift sanctions up off of anybody, except that it's within their own interests. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not necessarily sitting here saying that Jolani is working for Israeli interests, no. But what I am saying is that sometimes you could feel you're going in a certain direction, but you're really going in the opposite direction. And with the United States carrying out a genocide in the Palestinian territories, I don't know if you can make a credible case that working with them is a good thing. Now, some people are going to sit there and say, oh, but we needed to get the sanctions lifted. Yeah, but at what cost? Already, you have the Israelis who are controlling Suedat through their man Hikmet al-Hajri. That's a fact. We've already got the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, running rampant in the Quneitra area, and it's expanded. Can't get around that. You've got now operations that were being carried out by the Israeli military just 15 minutes from the capital. No shots fired. Can't get around that. The SDF, the Kurdish militia forces in the northeastern part of the country, Israel likes them and they like Israel. That can't be looked at as a good thing either. Now, bearing in mind that those Kurdish militia forces haven't integrated into the Damascus framework as of yet, as was advertised, as was supposed to happen, but didn't happen as of yet. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I'm not thinking that that's going to happen. And I don't care what the Americans say. I think that the Israelis need to keep Syria divided and weak, and it's so much easier for them to simply bankroll the Kurdish militia force operation just enough to keep Damascus at bay, and so that they could turn that key anytime they feel that they need it. And Allah knows best. Now, so going back to the question, do I feel that everything that they said about him was right? I have to go back and see everything that they said because I just don't remember it. I'm just being honest. I'm sorry. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, we've got Muhammad Niaz who says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Pakistan and Saudi made an agreement for making Islamic NATO. Is Jolani and Syrian government going to join in this Muslim NATO establishment? That is not being discussed right now, is not on the table. What is being discussed and feared by a lot of people who are concerned that tomorrow when Ahmed al-Shara meets US President Donald Trump, that's the 10th of the month, that he's going to join the global coalition against ISIS. That's problematic. That is big time problematic for a reason. One of those reasons is that that global coalition that they say is against ISIS, well, first of all, it started back in 2014 and 48 assassinations have happened up until the moment of this broadcast. In 2025, after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, 13 assassinations in 12 separate attacks have taken place. The most recent was about 3 days ago. After some of the checking that we did, it appears that only 2 of the 13 are suspected to have ISIS ties. Now, I don't care if they did. Why? Am I an ISIS supporter? No. But if you know the target's location, you can't go and arrest him, put him on trial? What are we doing here? I mean, what's going on? People say things or do things that you don't like, or you feel that they're doing this or that. No need for a trial, no need for a lawyer. Who is he anyway? And if he's charged with being a part of ISIS, ain't nobody coming to his rescue, no how. And then you got another dead Muslim. Yep, that's right. That's what it is. I thought that this revolution was about justice. Okay, if you're charging this person with being a part of a prescribed group, put him on trial. I know of one young man, and he was arrested in the Northern Territories about 3 years ago. He was arrested because he's a Turkish national. He was arrested and he was taken to Turkey for trial. Everybody knew they wouldn't have gone through all of this to arrest him. Turkey's going to arrest him in Syria, take him to Syria for a trial. No, what did he do? And everybody thought that there was something going on. He was put on trial, and he was found, the charges of being a part of a proscribed group, and was found not guilty. Walked away free. Nothing next to his name. Went right back home. Now, why is this significant? What if the Turks would have just said, just bomb him, kill him? Maybe he's in the car with his wife and his kids. Don't make a difference. Maybe he's this or he's that. Just take him out. He would have been known as the ISIS guy, the ISIS Turkish guy, when he really wasn't. But people would have taken it as fact because they had no counter argument to it. No trials, just assassinations. And I'm very disappointed in this regard. Okay, back to the question. Sorry, I went into a tangent. So there's talk about him joining the international coalition alongside America. Problematic. Hassan says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Is it true Hamas is laying down arms? Will they surrender to Trump's peace force plan? Also, it is sad to see Ahmed Shara slowly becoming another Arab puppet of USA. The first part of the question is Hamas laying down its arms? Hamas has said that the arms are the property of the Palestinian people, and that's not a decision that they can make alone. This is the first thing. The second thing is that they did say that they would possibly agree to do away with weapons that can reach into Greater Israel. However, they would keep their weapons that they would use inside of their territory. And I'm not sure. I don't think that they got a response back from that as of yet, because Tel Aviv is not interested in that. They want the whole thing. The point is that to answer that question in the short term, I would say, no, this is not the case. This is not the case. They're not going to they're not going to lay down their arms. That wouldn't make an ounce of sense, to be honest with you. And Allah knows best. Okay, it says here, it's sad to see Ahmed Shara slowly becoming another Arab puppet of USA. I'm going to abstain from any comment on that until after the meeting with Trump tomorrow, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, we've got Peace Now here who says, may Allah accept your works and make it a means of acceptance and guidance for the Ummah. Ameen, ameen. I really appreciate that. Okay. Okay, there is talk going around Islamic NATO, even Malaysia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and another Muslim entity is joining. What is your advice, bro, about this? I don't think it's real. I think it's fake. Fake. And I'll tell you why. Which of these countries have an Islamic domestic agenda? I didn't say they don't have Muslims, because they do. I didn't say that they don't have masjids, because they do. But in order for that bond, that Islamic bond, to be the cohesive element, then we're going to need to see some Islam enforced inside the country. And Islam enforced is not like, okay, well, you got to go and everybody has to have a beard, everybody's got to wear a niqab. There's so much more to the Sharia than that. That's probably like 0.1%. So the point that I'm making here is that if you go to Azerbaijan, does that look like a Sharia compliant state to you? No. Turkey? They themselves say that they're a secular state. Don't look at me. Malaysia, nice people, beautiful country. But they can't be called a Syria compliant state. So what is this Islamic NATO all about? Where's the Islam coming from? And again, yes, the populations are Muslims, walhamdulillah. But to say that that which is going to bind us is Islam when we're not seeing the Islam inside of their respective countries, I would say that it's extremely suspect. Don't hold your breath on that. Bilal, why did the Americans release Jolani in 2011 just in time for the Syrian revolution? I have no idea. Okay. Imam al-Albani, Allah yarhamuhu, may Allah have mercy on him, states that it is obligatory in some cases to remove the hakim or the leader. Do those who freed Syria not have the ability to approach him and get answers regarding all these issues? I got to tell you that some answers are needed, and I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned because it was advertised by Ahmed al-Shara, Abu Muhammad Jolani, for years that this in Syria was an Islamic project and that these ill-equipped, outmanned and outgunned fighters were running up on these different mountains and hilltops and buildings and wading through dangerous territory to establish the justice of Islam. That's what everybody was sold on. And they believed that, many of them. But now the people are not seeing it and they're not happy about it. And I think that that's very problematic. At some point, Ahmed al-Shara is going to have to address some of the people that helped to bring him to power. And he's going to have to say something to them. I think that just ignoring them or not seeing it as all that important in the geopolitical scheme of things is a big mistake. But we're going to have to wait and see. Okay, next, the game. Bilal, why is the man who recognized the Golan Heights for Israel, being Donald Trump, have billboards in Damascus? I didn't see the billboard. I didn't see it. I'd like to see it. All right, we've got Abdurrahman here who says, there are no Sharia compliant states, only the Taliban come close to it. I think I agree with you. I think more than I think. All right, we got German force here. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal. Can you at least admit to us what are the pros about Ahmed al-Shara? Okay. Let me give you a common principle. One of the principles is that when somebody's good outweighs their bad, then we focus on that good and we don't highlight the bad. When it's the other way around, then the principle changes. Now we've got to talk business for a second. Talk straight business for a second. 13 years of bloodletting, advertising it as a jihad for the sake of Islam and to bring Islam to Syria. And then once they come to power, Islam seems to be sidelined. Now we're doing operations with the Americans who are carrying out a genocide, with the same Americans who've killed and continue to kill many Muslims. And you want to talk about the good? You want to, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about what? Building some malls? Is that what you want to talk about? You want to talk about paving some roads? I don't want to talk about that because I see that as extremely small. If you go to some of the mothers of those sons, may Allah have mercy on them, who fought in the war, I don't know how happy they would necessarily be. They thought their sons were fighting. Some of those mothers, many of them during those times, encouraged their sons to go to fight for Islam. And right now, we're not seeing that. So what do you want us to talk about? Help me to understand what you think is more important and worthy to discuss than that. And Allah knows best. All righty. The game says, will Jolani ask Trump to reverse his recognition of the Golan Heights and withdraw their troops and end the occupation of Syria? I don't think so. I think that he's going there to discuss the Kurdish militia forces, the SDF, and their situation, why the integration and such like that has stalled, and other things. So I think that there are a lot of things to discuss, but I don't think that that's going to be one of the things on it. So you got to keep one thing in mind. There's a principle also at play here, and that is they'll never give you at the bargaining table what you can't take on a battlefield. So if you can't threaten to take something on the battlefield, you're not getting it at the bargaining table. I mean, Syria, after just coming through the Assad era, it's not realistic that they are going to be able to take it by force. And Allah knows best. Next, Assalamu alaikum, Bilal. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Why don't you write a memoir of your experiences in the Middle East so it's a lesson and guide for others? I have it, and I think I'm going to do a self-publishing. I haven't found a publisher as of yet. Actually, I've got to kind of get off my lazy self and get to work and try to find one. But yes, I do have I have a complete book. It's ready. So if you're a publisher, contact me. Okay, next we've got here in Jolani's early days, did he do anything to prove that he was a Muslim leader, fighting against the enemies of Islam? I thought he did do a few good things, but I'd like to know more about that. In the early days and past the early days, and all, and even up until the fall of Assad, he was in opposition to Assad. There's no ifs, no ands, or buts about that. And his group, Jabhat al-Nusra, was one of the most potent fighting forces in those early days of the war. They fought with their aqidah, or their belief, and that was a huge benefit to the Syrian people, because when you find someone that fights with their belief system, you've got yourself a serious fighter. So yeah, there were a lot of pluses that were there at that time. But, well, we talked about it already. All righty. We're going to take one last one. Let's see. One last one. Okay, we've got one here who says, please talk about the obscure assassinations of legendary Syrian revolutionaries one by one. With such obscurity, any of 10 to 15 entities in Syria can be blamed. Okay, I'm not 100% clear on the question. Are you talking about those who died through drone strikes, or are you talking about other assassinations? Yeah, I'm not 100% clear on the question. Okay, last question. Bilal, Syria is on a list of 7 countries America wanted to deal with. So the rebels just did the will of America, hence why they are so close now. Now, brother, yeah, let me break this down for you. There's no way in the world that you're going to dismiss the suffering of 26 million people under Bashar al-Assad and just say, that was just all about America. No, it wasn't. Do you hear Syrian people crying that Bashar al-Assad is gone? The ones who like Jolani and those who don't like him. Is anybody saying, oh, if only Bashar al-Assad was back? I don't hear anybody saying that. He was the worst of tyrants, a torturer, a murderer. He would starve his prisoners and do all kinds of countless atrocities. He brought nothing but pain and suffering and misery to the Syrian people. That's real. That's real. A lot of people may not like that, but that's real. Okay. After having said that, yes, did America want to take down Bashar al-Assad? Yeah, they did. And so did the Syrian people too. Don't fall into the trap of assuming that just because America wanted something that nobody else wanted it except for America. Other people wanted it too. They did. Maybe they're not comfortable with being in America's lap or being in America's embrace or the direction it might be going in. They may not be happy about that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, well, look, we got rid of Bashar al-Assad and it was all for America. And if it wasn't for America, then we would like to have Assad back. That's not true, man. It's not true. It's not. It's totally divorced from reality. And Allah knows best. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. Guys, before you go, could you please take a look at our crowdfunding page? I would be so happy if you could do that. It's on Madinah.com/voices of truth. That's MADINAH.com/voices of truth. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi